So for this project, some of you will be wanting to create lines that like grow out of a certain point, like on the Alaska map, or some of you will be wanting to make arrows that, for example, come out of this administrator and then come back from the teacher. So but it's a useful skill for everybody to learn. So I'm gonna just shift select all these, hit S with all of them selected, scale them down just a little bit. I mean, they could be bunched up more, but yeah, we're just getting the basic principle. So we've done shape layers using these shapes here, but you can also make masks and shape layers with this pen tool. So if we wanted to make a shape layer, the key is to make sure all your layers are deselected. So I'm going to click off, and let's just click one point here, and I'm going to click where I want it to end, and I'm clicking and holding and dragging to get that nice curve. So it made a shape layer that is a path. There's no fill because it's just a single line, and let's just dial down that. Select the shape layer. Let's dial down that stroke a little bit. If you hold spacebar, your hand tool comes out, so you can just like click and drag your thing around. Also, the middle mouse button does that as well. So we have this nice little path, and a few things about these line paths or single curve paths. If you open it up and you open up stroke, you can do there's this option called dashes, which is kind of cool. If I hit plus, it turns it all into dashes, and then I can change the number of dashes, which you know, that's kind of a nice little effect, and I can offset it. So you know, that's a property you could animate. That looks kind of neat. I'm not sure what you would use it for. To me, it looks like a chainsaw or something. But let's turn off the dashes for now. What we want to do to animate that path is add this animation property, little play button. Go to trim paths, and it's going to give us a new little trim paths operator window. So if we drop that down, you can. So right now it starts at 0%, so it starts fully on that point, and it goes all the way to 100%. So if I dial that back and push that in, or offset it, you could get something like that. But really, what you'd want to do if you wanted it growing out of a certain point is don't have any offset, have it start both of them at 0%, start and end, and just animate the end from 0 to 100. And maybe if you want to try the easy ease, you could do that. Also, you know, it's got a very hard edge, so in that stroke tab that we were looking at before, instead of this butt cap, you can change it to a round cap. Okay, but so some of you, this will be all you need to know, but let's say you wanted to make like an arrowhead at the end of it. So you're gonna have to make a new shape, and let's go to the star tool, and I'm just clicking and dragging out, so I'm still holding it, and if you have a scroll wheel, your scroll wheel can change the amount of, so if I wanted a triangle, I'd scroll down to 3 sides. If you don't have a scroll wheel, you can do it from in here. The shape that was created is a polystar. Go to polystar path and set the points to 5 if you wanted a normal star, or 3 if you want a triangle. But I don't want this outline, so I'm going to click fill and choose solid, and I gotta make sure that's selected. Fill solid, and I want it to be that turquoise color, so I'll just click it there and turn the stroke off. Okay, so it's going to follow the path where its anchor point is, so it's probably smart to just put your anchor point into position right off the bat. So so it's at the bottom of the triangle right now. And let's move this triangle just so we can see it. Let's move this path down, or let's scale this down. Notice it's scaling along that anchor point. And let's move it up here. Okay, so here is our, we'll call it path, and we'll call this arrowhead. So if you go into your path, and if you click into your shape tab, and then go into the path tab and click and highlight path, then do Command C. Then go to the arrowhead, and you can go into the transform tool and go to the position, or if you just hit P, it opens up the same property position, and then Command V. So now it created these 2 keyframes, which I believe are 2 seconds by default, but you can move them, you can increase their time, you can easy ease them. So we want them to be starting kind of in line with those other keyframes, or slightly before. If I select this and hit U, I can see more clearly. And let's easy ease them as well. Okay, but notice it just kind of rides along the path. So here's a part I often have a hard time remembering, is if I right click on the layer and go up to transform and auto orient, you orient along the path. So now it's following that path, but it's kind of pointing the wrong direction. So I'm going to hit R and rotate it 90 degrees. So let's see how this looks. So maybe what I would do is have this scale. I'd animate the scale property to 0. So it might look like that. So unfortunately, there isn't a super easy way to duplicate this. If I were trying to be quick, I'd duplicate the path and then rotate it, 180 degrees. But this path doesn't take into account those other transformations. So then if I were to copy this, try to make this triangle follow this path, it would still think that the path is up here. So what we have to do is duplicate this path, and you kind of have to manually adjust the shape. So if I click the path, now I can, well, I'm just going to move the points down, but this is still technically the start point, even though I want it to start over here. I should probably just flip them. So there's that, and then just kind of, you can get away with a lot just by eyeballing it. So now we have this, and if I were to, depending on if you want to offset the time, duplicate. Now I can duplicate the arrowhead and go into the path, path 2 path, copy it, go to arrowhead 2, go to position. Let me delete those other position keyframes and paste the new ones. So now it follows the new ones. There. So now we have, maybe I'll move those scale keyframes. I just hit S to bring up the scale property. So something like that.